Next week, we'll see the release of a long-awaited Senate committee report on forced adoptions. For some of the women travelling to Canberra to hear the findings firsthand, nothing short of a national apology will help heal the hurt. Submissions to the inquiry have told harrowing stories about women who were drugged and physically restrained as authorities took away their babies. Amy Bainbridge reports.
In the 1950s, 60s and 70s, a nightmare began for many Australian women. This Senate inquiry has heard during this period tens of thousands of babies were taken from young unwed women and given up for adoption. Christine Cole was 16 when she fell pregnant to her boyfriend in 1969. She wanted to keep her baby, but says she was detained and then drugged at the Crown Street Women's Hospital in Sydney. Her son was taken from her immediately after he was born.
I was pushed back onto the bed by 3 nurses. The pillow was placed back on my chest and the midwife at the end of the bed said, "This has got nothing to do with you." Now, mind you, I had not signed any adoption consent. This was presuming that my baby was going to be taken for adoption, irrespective of what I wanted.
Christine Cole's experience has turned into an insatiable desire to know more. She's completing a PhD on the history of forced adoptions. She's interviewed 35 women who had their babies taken, as well as former medical staff and social workers. She says her research shows forced adoptions were a Commonwealth policy.
If a mother was single, she had to go and see the social worker. Once a social worker realised that the mother was without support, they would put a secret code on the mother's file. And it might be BFA, baby for adoption, UB negative, unmarried, baby for adoption. In some hospitals they used coloured codes. Now this was, the mother did not know about this code being put on her file. But that code then dictated to the maternity staff months later how that mother was going to be treated in the maternity ward.
Lily Arthur's baby was taken from her in 1967, despite her parents signing a consent form for her to marry her then boyfriend.
I gave birth to my son in the Royal Women's Hospital in Brisbane, where I was tied down to the labour ward bed, had my son taken from me at birth and hidden for 8 days. And then they came and extracted a consent off me.
Lily Arthur says her support group Origins can't accept a formal apology from this Senate inquiry.
I think an apology is just like having a meal where you have your dessert first and your main course last. We can't guarantee that women are not going to wake up in 5 or 10 years' time, realising the crimes that are being committed against them and say there's no further redress for you, because we've already apologised for it. We can't accept apologies under those terms.
Christine Cole says an apology would help those who are suffering.
An apology in the same way that was given to our Aboriginal brothers and sisters who have led the way in this, where the government takes full responsibility for the damage it inflicted, takes full responsibility for the policies that it enacted.
This isn't the first time stories like Christine's and Lily's have been made public. In 1998, a New South Wales State Parliamentary Committee investigated forced adoptions.
They put a pillow over my head, or up here, so I could not see her. And she was taken away and I was taken down. No, I wasn't. I was drugged.
It found adoption practices had been unlawful, but it didn't make all the submissions public, and critics say few recommendations were implemented.
I believe that they should have done better than they did, but at least it put a lot of the mother stories on the public record, and I think it built the foundation upon which the great group of mothers led by Chris Cole and joined by mothers in other states were then able to go on to their own respective state governments, and now of course the Commonwealth Government, to hopefully get an apology which is fully deserved.
The inquiry has examined whether Commonwealth Government policies contributed to forced adoptions. The committee has received more than 400 submissions and held hearings across Australia.
You felt disgusted, drained at the end of each inquiry. We all felt very drained. because it really was intense hearing people's experiences, hearing them recount what happened to them, 40, 50 years ago.
The report will be tabled on Wednesday afternoon. Amy Bainbridge, Lateline.